want to hone back in on the Ohio State rivalry for a minute. Given the way that these games have gone the last 2 years, I'm wondering, in your eyes, do you think there's merit to the idea that Michigan kind of has Ohio State's number right now, or is this just a rivalry swinging back another direction after, whatever it was, 2 decades of dominance? Do you think it's overblown, or is this real?
No, it's real. It's real because the Ohio State people are trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do to beat Michigan now? Which is what Michigan had to think about for all those years. How do we beat this team? They've got all this talent. They've got these superstars. They've got these first-round draft picks. What do we need to become the tough matchup for them? And Ohio State's got to figure out how to be a tougher matchup for Michigan, or figure out how to match Michigan. With the athletes Ohio State has, they should be able to match Michigan blow for blow, but stylistically, it doesn't feel like they're built that way. It feels like they are built to score 50 points on you in a 72-degree dome on carpet, which is like, it'll be interesting if once divisions go away in the Big Ten, we get that game. We get that Michigan-Ohio State game in 72 degrees on carpet. How does it look different? The way it's played now, where it's played in November in Ann Arbor, Michigan, or Columbus, Ohio, like Michigan is built to win that game now. And the challenge for Ryan Day, and I think Jim Knowles, especially the DC at Ohio State, is how do you produce a team, and especially a defense, that is capable of absorbing those blows and winning a game in those conditions, because that's the condition you have to play it in now. Next year, you may play it in that condition, but then the next time you play, you may be in a dome, and all of a sudden Ohio State is built to win in that condition. So that's the thing. It's weird if you're Ryan Day, like, do you just gut it out for one more year and keep doing what you're doing? Because the games that matter more are probably going to be played in a condition that favors you going forward. But you still, I know people say it's going to take away from the rivalry if they play other games and if they play in the playoff and in the Big Ten championship game. I still think you got to win that regular season game. You can't keep losing that game. And you saw what they did to John Cooper. And I know it drives Ohio State people crazy when you bring up John Cooper with regard to Ryan Day, because there's only been 2 losses. But you can't let it get out of hand if you're him. You have to start beating them again.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. With that said, you said earlier, we're picking Michigan to win the Big Ten. Now, I think, maybe that was the media collectively. Do you have Michigan winning the Big Ten, I guess? And then, who's your playoff heading into this year? I don't know if you made official predictions.
I haven't really made one yet. Okay. I mean, we're all guessing at this point, but I did pick Michigan to win the Big Ten, and because I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt. And the thing is, the talent gap is not that huge anymore with Michigan and Ohio State, and especially I've evolved the way I look at team talent over the years. It used to be I would just look at recruiting stars and who you brought in. But now there's definitely a development component to it that you have to include. Like if a team is pumping out NFL players year after year after year, that has to be taken into account. So, I'll talk to NFL folks, or I'll talk to people in the draft world, scouting world, and find out, okay, how many real dudes are on this team? How many guys that you would pick if you could pick them next year are on this team? And I think that's a better gauge than just, hey, you brought in this many blue chip recruits. I think it's a little bit of both. So that's why it's so easy to pick Georgia, because when you go to an NFL person, they're going to go, well, we love these seniors and we love these juniors and we can't wait till these sophomores. But Michigan's like that now too. That's where Michigan is. And that's why you give Michigan that benefit of the doubt. I'll give you a prime example of this. Texas for years would bring in very highly rated recruiting classes, but then the output into the NFL, you're like, well, no, they're not drafting anybody. So clearly something's happening in between here that's not working. Well, now if you ask the NFL people about the Texas roster for this year, they're like, no, there's a bunch of guys we love. And so that's why it's easier to get excited about Texas than it was the past few years because, okay, there's a legit left tackle that is probably a first-round draft pick in 2025. There's a tight end that the NFL people love. They've got D tackles that are going to go kind of mid-round guys. Like, that's not what they had before. And so I think it makes it easier to judge those types of teams. And for Michigan, you absolutely give benefit of the doubt when an NFL person or a scouting person says, I do see draft picks in the teens on this team.